Welcome to our Coach's Corner podcast. I'm your host, Eric, and I want to thank you for joining us as we turn up the heat by sharing our thoughts on health and fitness, along with some of our personal fitness experiences. Each episode, we'll be covering a wide variety of topics related to overall health and fitness with a no-fluff, real talk perspective.
Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Coach's Corner. Sleep, you can't live without it. Today, we'll be discussing the benefits to a healthy sleep routine while covering tips to help improve your slumber. I'm your host, Dana, and I also have hosts Amy and Eric here with me today.
What's up, guys?
Hey.
Let's go ahead and deep dive into one of the most overlooked necessities to establishing overall well-being. But before we do, we're going to turn it over to Amy while Eric is in the hot seat today for rapid-fire questions. Take it away, Amy.
Yes. All right, Eric, are you ready?
No, but let's go.
Yeah, so normally we ask our guests this, but we're kind of all on this today. So we have not asked these to Eric yet, so we're going to get to know Eric a little bit more. You hear him every week, but now let's get to know him. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. Favorite day of the week?
Monday.
Favorite what? Wait, what?
I get the most done on Mondays.
Oh, okay. Favorite exercise?
Ooh, pull-ups.
Do you snore?
No.
What's your middle name?
James.
Bath or shower?
Shower.
Favorite childhood TV show?
Tom and Jerry.
Okay. What's your bedtime?
11.
Favorite season?
Summer.
Can you do a pull-up?
Yes.
How many cups of coffee do you drink in a day?
3.
All right. Are you a good dancer?
Yes.
Oh,
You got moves?
I got moves.
have to
Oh
see
my
that.
God, we haven't seen these.
I know. That's new.
We're going to have a dance party in the
There we
office
go.
later.
All right. Last one. How many hours of sleep do you get a night?
Not enough. I would say average probably 5 to 6.
All right. How old's your daughter?
16 months.
All right. All
Yeah,
right.
that's
That
right.
makes
Note,
sense.
it will, hopefully it'll improve.
Hopefully
as
being the
she
key word
gets
there.
a little bit older.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. Eric, you just killed that.
that was quick.
Better than, I've done this multiple times, and you crushed me.
I like
so
those
No
questions. Thanks for
hesitation.
those questions. Those were a lot easier than some of the ones in the past.
Yeah.
Those were good. So our topic today, sleep. You can't live without it. This is a passion topic for me. So these guys may have to reel me in because I might just go off the deep end with information on sleep. But I'll try to stay on task. But first, where I'd like to start is just talking to our audience a little bit more about why sleep is needed and what is actually happening to your body during sleep. So from a neurological aspect or things like that, what's happening, and I'll ask this to you guys, what's happening to our body during sleep and why do we need it?
Well, sleep is the time it allows the brain and the body to slow down so you can actually engage in the process of recovering. So it helps promote better physical and mental performance the next day and just overall in the long term. So, you're going all day. Sleep is that time for your body to exhale and catch up and put everything back in its place.
I was reading studies on sleep to prepare for this, and one thing that just hit me, it was not some overwhelming fact that we never heard, but it just hit me a little bit differently in that it said that all mammals, so both human and any type of animal, all have some type of sleep cycle for survival just in daily life. So I don't know why that hit me so much, but it was sleep
Interesting.
must be somewhat important for humankind and mammals because every single species goes through different forms of sleep, whether it's hibernation or whether it's daily sleep, in order to survive in the world. It just hit me a little bit different on that one.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So let's talk about facts about sleep. So what can sleep deprivation cause? We always talk about, you need more sleep, you need more sleep. And as fitness coaches, we often, when I'm working with a client and say, they want to lose weight and start to begin exercise. One of the first questions I ask them, which I think irritates them sometimes, is I skip the diet and exercise and I ask what their sleep is like. And they're kind of like, why are you asking me that? But if someone's getting 5 hours of sleep per night on a consistent basis, that's not enough. And so it's going to drastically impact their diet specifically, as well as their ability to exercise. So let's talk about, from your all's perspective and from research, what can sleep deprivation cause or lead to, short-term and long-term?
So you mentioned it, short-term and long-term. So there are the short-term effects that we feel, like, the next day or the next few days. And then there's those long-term effects that are compounded, that add up. Those are the really bad ones. So just to name a few, sleep deprivation, and you probably felt these. Like, if you have not had a night of sleep, like...
Especially with the 16-month-old, I've felt them.
Yeah. So, like, struggling to stay awake when inactive. So, like, watching TV, you might fall asleep. Reading a book, falling asleep. Difficulty concentrating. I've noticed this.
Yeah.
Like, if I
100%.
cannot, like, if I don't get a good night of sleep, like, I am not productive. And sometimes I feel like I need like a 20-minute power nap, and like I can hit it again. But yes, that is real. Forgetfulness, like brain fog type stuff. Slowness in responding to others. It's almost like you're like swimming around in your own little fog. Loss of motivation.
That's my big one.
That's a big
Yeah.
one right there.
That's my big one. Like, when I get adequate sleep, like, I am just on it.
Yeah.
And when I'm tired or sleep deprived, like, my motivation is like at a 2.
Well, like, all I want to do is sleep. Like, I just like, when
Want
can
more
I
sleep.
get back in bed?
Yeah, for sure.
Because I don't want to do anything else.
Increased moodiness for sure
Yes.
is
Yeah.
mine.
Absolutely.
Woo! Coming at you hard. I think like drowsiness, just feeling overall like exhaustion.
Yeah.
Let's talk about like the longevity though of sleep issues, what that can cause with health problems.
Well, hold on. There's also something that I've noticed too. So, like, weight gain on here. I have noticed, like, when I don't get a good night's sleep, I just want to keep eating. It's almost like, and I want like sugary foods or like bad foods. It's like my body just keeps wanting these like hits of things to stay awake. Like, I just need like the next sugar hit to keep me awake. And so I think that is one of the contributors to that weight gain on there too.
And that's a huge one. That's what a lot of people don't associate lack of sleep with, is like weight gain. That is a direct causation
Yeah.
of a lack of sleep. Like, I think we've talked about this before, but if someone is traveling for work a lot, usually their routine is all thrown off. So usually they're drinking socially more, because it may be like a business thing where afterwards you have to do a networking type of thing. There's usually drinks involved with that. So there's alcohol. There is food that you're not used to eating. You're eating larger portions. You're eating out more. And then, like I said, you're doing that networking type of thing, or catching up with colleagues personally. And so you're not going to bed till 11 or 12, and then your business meeting starts at 8:30 the next day. So like, and if that happens, so say you're at like a 2-day conference, that happens for 2 days, then your flight home, if you do that if that's something that's routinely in your schedule, and say you do that for out of 7 weeks, say you travel 4, like that is going to build up, and that's easily, you can gain 10 pounds like that. And most people are like,
sure.
I don't know what's happening. And it's like, there's all of these causes that are occurring that's going to have a cause and effect type of thing. And so it's not, oh, you're not paying attention to your exercise and diet. Yeah, that's one thing, but your sleep patterns are god awful right now. So usually that's like, your body will actually tell you what's going on. It will give you clues, and you have to be self-aware enough to see like, okay, you may not even always feel tired, but your body will give physical reactions that are telling you this is the issue.
Yeah.
Eric and I were actually looking up some articles for this the other day, and something that I found really interesting, because like one of the questions we asked was like, can you catch up on sleep? Like, is that something you can do? And it was so interesting because it said it can take up to 4 days to recover from 1 hour of lost sleep, and up to 9 days to eliminate
That's mind blowing
sleep
to
debt.
me. 4
I had that
days.
too.
4 days
For
1
to
hour.
make up
1 hour.
1 hour.
So think about like, if you're sleeping 5, right? And
You do that over like 3, 4, 5, 6 months.
And studies show like adults should have at least bare minimum 7. They would love for you to get 9. Like 7 to 9 is where you should go.
That'd be a no
and
person.
teen and adolescents need even more than that, because their brain is like hypering developed. Their body is growing, so it's taking a lot of energy. So if that teenager is sleeping till 11 o'clock, maybe give them a break because their body
need it.
actually needs it. And the older we get, we don't need as much, but you fundamentally you need 7 to 9 hours. So if you're only getting 5, that's 2 hours a
Yeah.
night.
Yeah.
And it takes 4 days to make up 9 days, right? To make up like
Yeah.
a larger amount. So like over a period of time, when we go back to, and I want to circle back to what Amy talked about, can we make up sleep? But longevity issues that you may have on the, like long term is like people who are sleep deprived are more likely basically to make poor decisions and take risks that they wouldn't normally make. So a lack of sleep also increases like irritability, risk for anxiety and depression is a huge one. So physically, a lack of sleep increases the risk for like medical concerns. Some, for example, may be type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, kidney disease, stroke, obesity.
Lowered immune system.
Those are
That's a big
huge
one.
things.
That's a
I've
good one
noticed that
because
one. If
now
I-
since I've had my daughter and having lack of sleep, we've had more colds,
Yeah.
all this stuff.
I can
and I
tell, like-
wonder if that's a correlation.
I
between
think like if I stay up late a few nights in a row, like I almost feel like I start getting sick, like just from that. And I don't know if that's like I feel run down from being tired, or if that's like lowered immunity and I am
Yeah.
like getting sick. And I feel like that's a big one for me that I notice.
And you mentioned, Amy, like when you're really tired or there's a lack of sleep there, you tend to overeat or you just want to choose sugary
Yeah.
foods. That's not just you. That's something that's
lot of
happening in
people.
your body from a science perspective. Like sleep deprivation affects the body's release of ghrelin and leptin. And those are two, like without getting like too far in the weeds, those are two neurotransmitters in the brain that basically tell our body when to consume calories, when we're hungry, and when we're satisfied. So those aren't being released properly. So then you're going to be more drawn to higher calorie foods. And then like chronic sleep deprivation, think about that long term. It's more associated with having like a larger waist circumference. You're going to hold your weight there and increased risk of obesity long term. And people don't even think about that. All they think about is diet when they think about
I feel
obesity.
I feel like too a lot of people will grab sodas, like if you're sleep deprived, to get that caffeine, but then you're also sucking down an
Yeah.
extra 350 calories, depending on how big. You're getting a big gulp or something.
Go
Like,
getting the 44
Yeah.
ouncer at the gas station. So from a fitness coach standpoint, would the first thing people need to focus on before nutrition and going to the gym is looking at their sleep?
I think that can simultaneously happen, but I was talking to a coach last week and mentioned like it has to be a priority just like exercise and nutrition are. People usually don't treat sleep that way, right? They'll treat sleep like, oh, I just get 5 hours. That's what I
It
get.
goes back to that hustle culture,
Yeah,
right?
that's what I get. I get 5
Yeah.
hours. And it's like, but do you set yourself up to get 7 to 9 hours? So it's not a point where you need to become obsessive about it, but it needs to be a priority to get a routine sleep pattern. And most people don't think about it that way. They're just like, I'll go to bed when I'm tired. Instead of creating a routine, which we'll talk about later, to prep your body for that sleep and to go into like the natural cycle of like physical, mental, and behavior change that goes through the 24-hour cycle, right? That
Yeah.
you worked all day, you maybe went to the gym or you run errands, you cooked dinner, you took a shower or a bath, whatever. You got your kids to sleep. Then what happens? Like it goes into that routine that your body starts to get into a rhythm of, okay, it is time to go to sleep. And you have to set that. And if you don't, and you're like, well, I'm going to watch this movie and I'll just fall asleep on the couch or whatever, over time, it's really not a good pattern to fall into at all.
So on the flip side of that, just to play devil's advocate here, can you get too much sleep? Is that bad for you? Or should you stay in that 7 to 9 range that you mentioned? Maybe there's not even the science out there yet for that.
There is a little bit, like it's like the whole, can you catch up on sleep? I think your question was a
true.
little bit different, but more or less like your body usually, if you let it, it will wake itself up on time
Yeah.
or where it wants. And it often says, like, for example, sleeping in on weekends to catch up on sleep is another common approach people
Yeah.
take to being in a sleep deficient state.
Yeah.
Right. And unfortunately, at this time, it's not really clear if sleeping
Right.
in actually like compensates for sleep debt or if it simply returns to like a normal sleep pattern. So say, both Amy and I coach early mornings, 2 days a week. So our sleep patterns are a little bit off, honestly, because 2 days a week, we're waking up at 4:30 a.m. to coach at 5:30. She does a little bit different than I do, but then on the other 2 days, I sleep till about 7. I know she works out in the morning a lot of times, so she'll still wake up pretty early, pretty significantly
Like 6.
early, like 6 o'clock. But then, so on the weekends, if I have the opportunity, which is rare, but if I have the opportunity on Saturday, I love to not set an alarm and just sleep. And my body will pretty much know, like,
Same. Yeah,
This
I always
is
end
where
up
I
waking
am.
up at that
Yeah.
same time
Yeah.
anyway. How does that make you guys feel when you have those early coaching days? Do you fall asleep easier or quicker on those days? Or,
no, mine's way worse.
because I've noticed the more active I am on a certain day, the easier it is for me to get to sleep.
I mean, I guess that, like, so, like, this morning I taught, so I got up at 4:30. So, like, I probably will be tired earlier. I feel like I just only have, like, a certain amount of waking hours.
Yeah.
And so if I start my day earlier, I'm going to be tired earlier.
Okay.
At least that's how it is
Yeah.
for me.
Okay.
I also struggle to fall asleep on those nights when I know I have to get up in the
Oh, yeah, the night
morning.
before.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like your mind worrying about not waking up,
Right.
right? Because
That's fine,
like
yeah.
we're responsible,
miss
like
the
we're
alarm
responsible for like opening
Yeah.
the boot camp and all that. So I think I struggle falling asleep that night. I actually sleep better on the day that I do coach because I'm so active for
Okay.
long periods of time. And
Yeah.
basically that's just science in that you release more energy that day. So you most likely
Naturally
will be
gonna- okay.
more tired. But also like going back to the weekend thing, it talked about one study found that sleeping in on weekends doesn't reverse the sleep pattern, but it gets you back into your natural rhythm.
Yeah.
Where even if I wake up at 7 and say on a Saturday I don't set my alarm and I sleep until 9 and then I wake up, that just means I needed to get there.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Because you'll read so many that are like, you should set your alarm the same every day. What studies have actually shown is it's very much dependent on the individual
Okay.
and where they feel best rested.
I know one trick, if there are any parents out there listening, my wife and I will switch days on the weekends and say, we'll take her, we'll go downstairs, you sleep till you wake up naturally, and then we'll switch that off on the next day. That helps.
Super
That's
smart.
Definitely helped us.
Yeah.
So how do you all, like for the parents out there, this is always
Yeah,
interesting
yeah.
because there's a lot of people are parents, is what do you guys do during the weekdays? I know some people I know, they do the same on the weekdays too.
Yeah.
They'll switch off or one will, they'll do like the get up in the morning, take them to daycare.
Yeah.
The other one will pick them up. Like, how do you guys work through that?
So during the week, we both get up at 6 is when basically our daughter wakes up is when we wake up. So it's usually around 6 is when she gets up. We'll switch off, like you said. Whoever's taking her to daycare, the other one will get up with her, get her dressed, get her fed, and then the other one will take her out the door to daycare.
Okay.
So it just depends on that fact and who's going where. And if she's going out of town, then I'll do all that, and then the other person will pick up in the evening and afternoon. So
I think that's an important factor for parents is like whatever works for you guys.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
like if you're fortunate to have a 2-parent household, to distribute those responsibilities
kudos to all
evenly.
the single moms and dads out there.
Yeah,
That
like
is not
rock
easy.
stars.
Oh, for sure.
Rock stars, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit more scientific for a moment about sleep cycles. So, we often hear what we're telling you, how important sleep is. But most of us that aren't like really in the health field, they don't necessarily know what is happening throughout the different stages of sleep. So bear with us. We're going to be a little scientific for a moment, but then we'll bring it back to layman's terms. Can you guys break down more of this for our listeners and discuss sleep cycles.
Yes. So there's 4 stages of sleep, and then those 4 stages are broken down even further into 2 categories. So we got our rapid eye movement, so that's REM, and then non-rapid eye movement, non-REM sleep. So these categories are important because what happens during REM sleep, REM sleep, is dramatically different from what happens during non-REM stages. So if we talk about the first 3 stages of sleep, these are composed of the non-REM activity. So stage 1, this is short. This is kind of the act of dozing off, transitioning into your sleep. Stage 2 is when the body and mind will slow down. You start settling more deeply into your sleep. It's easiest to be awoken during these first 2 stages. These are what we consider like light sleep. And then we get into stage 3, so this is your deep sleep, and this is when your body is really in that recovery mode. You're slowing down even further, and at the same time, your overall brain activity slows down, and this shows a telltale pattern of pulses of activity that are believed to help prevent unwanted awakening. So stage 3, that's that deep sleep. And then the 4th stage, this is your REM sleep, so that rapid eye movement sleep. And then during these periods, your brain activity shoots back up to levels similar to when you're awake, which explains why REM is associated with the most intense dreams. And then while breathing and heart rate increase during REM sleep, most muscles are paralyzed. I found that so interesting.
That is
which
crazy.
keeps us from acting out those vivid dreams. Obviously, there's people that do the night walking thing
yeah.
and the screaming, whatever. But generally, that's what happens there.
And
So
have
those
you
are our
ever had those
stages.
dreams that they're so real while
like
they're
you're
happening,
falling.
and they're actually you're dreaming,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and you want to get out,
Yeah.
but you physically can't.
Sounds
Your
like a
muscles
horror
are
movie.
physically they are paralyzed. You're dreaming, and you're trying to get out of it, and you can't.
God, I feel like
I used to
dreams
do
are
that
a
all
whole-
the time.
Dreams are a whole, I could
They're
talk
a whole
about
different
dreams
level.
forever.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
so
yeah.
fascinating. Like the ones where you can really feel yourself, feel yourself falling or
Yeah.
feel yourself
I've always had
doing
that
things.
right as I fall asleep, that one where I'm falling backwards in a chair. That's what it is for me. Then I'm jolted awake.
Yeah, yeah.
I think what the most important phase is, obviously we have them all for a reason, but stage 3, when we talk about deep sleep, and that's when the body's recovering, it's really interesting because it says overall brain activity slows. So told you we were getting scientific, but I did want to mention this. A lot of people you'll hear all the time, Eric and I talk hustle culture all the time, which we don't really believe in it. We like productivity over just long
Time spent
extended hours,
being
right?
busy. Yeah.
And so some people will say well, I can go off 4 hours of sleep and I'm good. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Good for you. But you may be okay physically. It may be something, there are people, and they're usually very hyperactive individuals, that can go off 4 hours of sleep and go long term for 4 hours of sleep from a physical standpoint. But what is happening during the deep stage and when your overall brain activity slows down is actually what is happening in the brain is it is getting washed out with metabolic waste. Because over day after day, just like our body does when we work out, right? It builds up, it needs recovery, and it builds up. This is particularly to cells that I won't get into, but it builds metabolic waste. So everything we have to do as far as driving, team meetings, every time we have to use our brain, it is using energy. And the more energy it uses, it needs to be washed. And what happens is it's like cerebrospinal fluid that actually washes out the metabolic waste in the brain. And that happens when there's less brain activity and oxygen levels are down. So it has the time to pass through because your brain is not active at that point. And what that is doing over time is clearing the brain of all that waste, because that waste can build up. And what they're seeing, it's not for sure, but what they're seeing is that can be correlated with the development of Alzheimer's as we age. And so that metabolic waste needs to be drained in order for us to have cognitive function, in order to be our best mentally. That has to happen. So while somebody may be fine physically at 4 hours, mentally they are not, because it hasn't had adequate time to clean the brain.
Well, it goes back to what you said earlier, that cause and effect. You do it once, then it goes into the next day, then goes to the next month, next year. You're that hustle mindset. Your 4 hours of sleep over time. Now where are you when you're 50, 60 years
Yeah,
old?
and look at that, like, consistent, not a refresh of the brain, because
Yeah.
the brain's basically using energy. So I forgot the stat. This could be way off, but I think it said, like, your brain uses 20% of your given energy a day, which is like a whole lot.
Yeah.
Because it's having to function all the time and neurons are having to fire and all that. So stage 3 is really where you're getting that recovery phase, where your body's getting the recovery, but more importantly, your brain is getting the recovery that it needs. Like, have you ever been up for like an extended amount of time, like 48 hours or something, when you may have been younger or
yeah.
something, and you start to get loopy and your brain is up, like, that's what's happening.
Clumsy, you start
Yes.
running into stuff.
Like ton of that.
Something interesting about sleep cycles. So we go through multiple a night. It says it takes about 90 minutes to go through your sleep cycle. So we get about 4 to 6 sleep cycles a night.
Okay.
Something that's interesting, I think we were going to talk about later, but something that I think is so cool is if you wake up during like the lighter part of your sleep cycle, you feel more rested than if someone wakes you up in deep sleep and you wake up and you're like all groggy. I used to have this app, I think it was called Sleep Cycles. I meant to look it up before this. But it was a free app, and so you could set an alarm. So like if you had to get up at 8 a.m., you'd set this alarm, and it would wake you up sometime between 7:30 and 8 a.m. And you just leave the app running on your bedside table, and it kind of detects what sleep you're in based on, like, it can hear movements and stuff like that. And so like it might wake you up 20 to 30 minutes earlier, but if it wakes you up in light sleep, you feel way more rested than if you just wake up at 8 and you just happen to be in the middle of deep sleep and you wake up all groggy, like, where the heck am I?
Right.
So I thought that was really cool, kind of in the sleep cycles, how that relates to that.
I feel like that happens with naps too. Like,
Yep.
so I don't get to nap anymore because, adulting. But in college, in high school, like, I used to nap all the time. Every day in college, undergrad, I would nap. Like, our class would be early because I played a sport, and so we would have to be ready for practice by like 3. So our classes would typically start at 8, and I could be done with classes for the day by like noon and go back to our apartment and sleep for 2 hours. And I loved it, but I would often wake up just so groggy because I didn't go through a full sleep cycle. Like, I most likely was in like a very deep sleep.
Well, that's like when people say, "Oh, I feel more tired now," even though you got more sleep. You feel more tired because you woke up in that deeper sleep.
Yeah.
Not to say I still don't love a good nap and I'll still take them, but a lot of times I feel worse after I take them. And that's most likely like I'm either in REM sleep or a deep sleep where I'm just all of a sudden woken up, and then it's like, okay, now we have to go do something. And it's
Yeah.
like, you want to do nothing after that.
Yeah. Well, something else about waking up too, like I think, I don't know if we touched on it or not, like circadian rhythm, like noticing, like when the sun rises and sunsets and stuff like that, and how your body plays in with that. So I got blackout curtains, and that like
Are
really
they
messed
not
me up.
What?
Well,
I love them.
I can sleep until like 11.
See,
11
I'm
like
a windows open. I need that sunlight first thing.
I mean,
coming
it's
in.
great to go to sleep. Like, it's awesome. I get great sleep. But, like, because I don't get the sun in the morning when it comes up, like, that kind of is what makes you up naturally. That's why they have, like, sunrise alarm clocks and stuff like that. But, like, I can sleep all day. Like, if it's dark, like, there's
Same.
something to, like, so if you have blackout curtains and you struggle to wake up in the morning, maybe.
I will say that
But
long
if you
sleep
don't,
in the basement,
I love them.
that
Yeah.
long
I love
sleep
them.
in the dark basement.
Yeah.
That's the best.
I mean, I cannot sleep without blackout curtains. Like,
can't- it
every
helps me
room
go to
I've had,
sleep.
like,
Yeah.
blackout curtains are amazing. But as Amy said, like, you can sleep much longer because you don't have that. So we talked about a routine earlier, like building a routine. We've talked about the importance of sleep. We've talked about sleep cycles. We've talked about just recovery in general of the brain and physically. Let's talk about what can we give our listeners that may help them improve their sleep. A lot of these you may have heard, but we'll go a little bit further in depth. what are some tips for better sleep that you guys either do or have heard about and have been successful for you?
I'm so excited for these. I've been waiting the whole time.
You go for it.
Well, the first one, and then I've done this and I've noticed a big difference, is setting a bedtime and working on going to sleep and waking up at the same times every day. And which is a little hard because yes, I do get up really early some mornings, but I generally try to get up within an hour or so each morning. But that's really, really helped. For sure. Go to bed and waking up.
Yeah, I think it's too. I have for sure have a bedtime, and it may not happen every night, but it's like it's a goal to start winding down at that time. The time I go to bed is a little bit different when I am coaching in the
I was
morning.
going to ask you that if it's different.
It's like an hour earlier, but it's not drastically different. If I'm not coaching and I'm waking up at like 6:45, I like to go to bed, like be in bed at 10.
Yeah.
If I am coaching, I like to be in bed by 9, which is like pretty difficult because I think the hardest part, and I've seen this since like we've all returned to the office, or we have because we're in the service industry. So all of us are pretty much in the office 5 days a week, is that you just feel like you don't have any downtime. You know, like I work out in the evenings because I've told you guys before I don't love working out in the morning. And so, you know, if I get off at like 4:30, I drive straight to the gym at 5. I work out for an hour at 6. I may have to run an errand because errands are so annoying. I hate them. But I may have to like stop at Kroger or something. Then I go home. I get home by like 6:30. I'm either like doing some dishes, laundry, cooking dinner. I eat by like 7 o'clock to like 7:30. And if I go to bed at 9, I literally have an hour and a half to, and this isn't even including like showers or my face routine because that takes, girl, my face routine's like a 15-minute to 20-minute thing. That literally leaves like an hour for yourself. And that, like, I don't have children, so, geez.
I was going to ask you, I was like, so what would you suggest? Because I have a time I wake up, but going to bed, I have this feeling like I'm going to go to bed after I get what I need to get done. Yeah. Not necessarily at this time.
But I think that's where you have to change the way of thinking. Like, how can you get that done in maybe other ways, in other times throughout the day, or because it's hard when you go back to like when you're in the office 5 days a week. Everything is so scheduled all the time. So like it's hard for someone to say like schedule your bedtime because you're like everything else in my life is on schedule. So it's difficult, but that's why like on days that I don't coach, I like to stay to 10:15, things like that, where I know I'm still getting adequate sleep, but I can enjoy a little bit more time to myself. I will say that is the perk of working out in the morning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is nice.
That's the big one.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I still don't like it, but I do it 2 days a week just because it gives me some type of like afternoon activities where I can do what I want.
Yeah. All right, so we got our bedtime set. So some things you can do once you are ready for bed, getting in bed. Some of the research shows that lowering your thermostat between 60 and 67 degrees is optimal for sleep. I have found this. I can't sleep if I'm hot. Like,
same.
I like to be cold and I like to be under the covers. I like to be snuggled in.
I need a fan too.
Yes, I need a fan.
I need a fan.
Yep, absolutely. Putting away and turning off all bright screens at least 30 minutes before your bedtime. This one's a little hard for me. I had my roommate in college. She's my best friend, but this was freshman year. She loved her sleep. She was all about sleep. She said nothing good happens after 10 p.m. So every day at 9:30 in our dorm room, she had a dim light, and she would dim the light, and she said it's melatonin time every night.
She had it right, man.
Nice. Yeah, in college, freshman in college,
she had it right.
Dimming the lights at 9:30 for melatonin time, and so that kind of stuck with me. I do that a little bit. I've tried to switch to like reading books or like audiobooks instead of like scrolling through like Instagram and stuff. I feel like that's helped a little bit, but yeah, that one's hard.
I would say like just for me, I use a fan because I need like white noise, but then I also bought a little sound machine that plays beach waves, and I hadn't used one before, and I bought this like a year ago or so. And when I transitioned to using that, oh my God, it was like instant. I would fall asleep because it's so relaxing. And so I have like a fan that makes noise, but I have a sound machine that's over it. And for me, that's really helped with being able to fall asleep because my mind like wanders a
Yeah.
lot. So
Yeah.
it's like I hear that and I can focus on that, and it's more relaxing to me.
I don't think I could do that. I like to hear every sound. Like, I'm like, oh, is someone breaking in? Like, is that a creak? What is that?
Then
Like,
I'm up for another 2
I'm like-
hours if that
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah, if it's
Yeah.
dead silent, I'm listening to my thoughts and not
Yeah.
trying to fall
That's
asleep.
true. That's a good, maybe I'll try that, shoot.
I think the piece on alcohol is really important to bring up.
Well,
is
diet, there's a few diet things in general, like alcohol, caffeine consumption, stuff like
yeah,
that.
and like cutting out alcohol at least like 4 hours before you sleep. A
Well, you
lot
have
of
that-
people have nightcaps.
Exactly. That night, that little glass of bourbon,
Yeah,
half
which-
hour before.
Which general like that's not terrible. Okay, like we're not saying like if that is one of your favorite times during the day is to unwind and have a small nightcap, you do you.
But just be
But-
aware. So and I found this interesting too, because like I do feel like alcohol puts me to sleep, and it does. So it can help you fall asleep, but it reduces your quality of sleep.
What happens there is like your cognitive function is like blocked basically. So like say you have a big presentation the next morning. Maybe your instinct is you want to be relaxed, you want to sleep really good, so
Right.
you have like a glass of bourbon or a glass of wine at night. But what happens is that day, say you were developing the presentation and studying it, prepping
Right.
for it. What needs to happen is like your subconscious when you're sleeping needs to take that over, take it in, and then it's going to be able to deliver it the next day. But what happens when alcohol is involved, it's literally a toxin and it gets in the way of that cognitive function of what you learned today, taking it into tomorrow.
Yeah.
So like that can have a drastic impact on maybe you'll fall asleep.
Yeah.
And if you drink a lot, you'll fall asleep because you pass out. But it reduces the quality drastically of the sleep that you're really getting.
So, and then also just falling asleep too. It's research shows to avoid caffeine at least 6 hours before your bedtime. So, like, yes, like coffee and stuff, but also like I know people that work out like in the afternoon or later and take pre-workout, and they get like that big thing of caffeine at like 6 or 7 p.m.
Oh, I do that sometimes.
Oh my
But
God.
I haven't anymore, but
Dude,
I
if
used to.
If
a
I
Little
had
lot.
a piece
night
of
coffee
dark
drinkers?
chocolate
Yeah.
after 3 p.m. I'm
Yeah.
up all night.
Yeah, at least like if you are a coffee drinker at night, because some people still drink coffee
Yeah.
after dinner, like try decaf. It's you're still gonna get the taste and the flavor that you want.
Right.
You're just not gonna get that caffeine. And a lost art here is try reading before you go to bed. My mom still does this.
Reading physical books or reading your
You
digital
know me,
downloads.
I be loving a physical book.
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
I love a book, and it's hard because it says reading will help create a calm nighttime activity, but most reading now is on an iPad, a Kindle,
Yeah.
your
Right.
phone. So
Well, I'll do an audio book and I'll
Oh,
put it on
nice.
my nightstand. I'll turn my lights off and I'll listen to it until I get too tired, and then I'll like reach over and pause it. and
very
go to
nice.
sleep.
So basically, listen to our podcast.
For sure.
Yeah.
As you are
We'll put you to
sleeping.
sleep.
Learn some stuff.
So to wrap this thing up, we talked about tips for better sleep. What are some things out there that you've seen or used? Like for me, I talked about I've had a lot of success with a sound machine, and they're little. It's like $25. What are some other things you've heard either in the fitness industry because they focus on sleep a lot, or just other tools that you guys have seen that have been successful, and we can give our listeners for recommendations?
Well, I talked about earlier. I really like that. I'm pretty sure it's called Sleep Cycle, an app. There's tons of them out there, or like Sleep Alarm. You know, a
Yeah,
specific
sunrise
sleep
alarm clock
Well, that's
is a good
different.
one.
So a
Okay.
sunrise alarm clock. You can get these on Amazon. One of our coaches was talking about it, raves about it. She uses it all the time. You can get one for $15 all the way to like $250, depending on how much you care. But basically, you set your time, and then it'll start to brighten your room. So, like, if you do use blackout curtains, you could get a sunrise alarm clock, and it starts to make your room look like daylight. So by the time that your alarm needs to go off for you to get up, your room is bright. So
And
you
it goes
kinda get that fake
like
circadian
30
rhythm.
minutes, I think Nicole said. Like, so if you're waking up at 6:30, if your alarm's set for 6:30, it will start to brighten at 6, and it will be very gradual. So it is not like your mama coming into your room and flipping on the lights when you're a
What are you
kid
doing?
and pulling off your covers. That is awful. No, it's more gradual. And she said it's like really peaceful. It's not
Yeah.
something that's like an alarm clock
Harsh,
that's just
yeah.
drastic.
Yeah.
And it helps your body come into that REM sleep where it's a little bit lighter and you're not so groggy when you wake up.
Yeah.
Something else I've heard about, and I wish I would have figured out what the name of it is. And Eric, you might know, but it's like
Yeah.
this comforter pad or something. I know you can get them on Amazon, but it like pumps cool water through it.
Yeah, I've seen those at the store. I can't remember the brand name.
Yeah, I
but
mean,
it's
there's a few
cooling
different
comforter.
ones. So, like, for me, like, I wake up, even if I have my temperature down, I wake up in the middle of the night sweating. So, like, if you are a hot sleeper and that wakes you up, this might be a good, I haven't tried it yet. I've heard
I haven't
raving
either.
reviews, but yeah, it's like this mattress topper and it pumps cool water throughout.
Yeah.
So it stays the same temperature. You set the temperature and it stays that temperature all night.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very
one,
cool.
One thing that we've used, and we probably should use it for ourselves, but we use it to help train our daughter when to go to sleep, when to wake up. It's called Hatch. So you can control it from your phone. You can set the volume or sound. We do beach waves for her to go to sleep, and we do birds for her to wake up. And now we've done this over the course of several months now that she wakes up kind of on her own in those times. But that Hatch has been huge.
So it's been pretty successful?
Oh, we still have a yellow light when she needs to go to sleep. And when it's time for her to wake up, we had a green light with the birds.
Nice.
So she's like,
interesting.
oh, okay, now I can get up. That's helped us a
I
ton.
think they need that for
Yeah.
adults. Like,
Well, that's what we
it's
said.
the same
We're like,
type of
let's
thing.
get that for us.
And, you know, a lot of people use their watches or different technologies to track their sleep. I never think that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know every single one that's out there or have like, you know, best thing to do is read reviews
Yeah.
and see what people that have actually used this say about it. But I never think there's anything wrong with at least having a understanding or a good idea of the amount of sleep you're getting and the quality of sleep you're getting. So, you know, as we close out here, our challenge to you guys is, I would say first, just start by setting yourself a bedtime. And each week, start to try to hit that. That's where I would start.
Yeah.
And then feed in some of these tips and tricks if you're having trouble falling asleep or getting in that deep sleep. And then potentially, if you're even more interested, look at starting to track your sleep and see how you feel and how your overall health is looking from just increasing your sleep overall. All
Love it.
right,
Love
guys.
it.
Love it.
All right, so we hope this improves your slumber. And join us 2 weeks from now for our next episode of Coach's Corner. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. Sweet dreams.